All right, all right. Welcome everybody to the OC Chat Bar Brunch Hour with your favorite barista and bartender, where we inform, educate, and advise our bar patrons with a mix of fun, humor. So pour up your libations, be it coffee, tea, water, or your favorite liquor. Grab a seat, and here we go. First things first, the house rules. This is a phobia-free space, so no racism, homophobia, sexism, etc. You name it, it does not belong here. Please respond with grace. We understand that you have different opinions in the chats and the comment, but please respond with grace. Behave respectfully, whether you disagree or not. Disclaimer, hosts of the OC Chat Bar are not licensed therapists, journalists, or counselors. We hope our conversations are a start-off point for your consideration. If you need professional support, please seek it because we support that.
Yes, we do. And I'm Celeste.
And I'm Otasha.
Woo!
All right. So we're going to jump right on into this one. It's called AI, A Brave New World. Let's find out. Well, first up is our espresso shots. So the first question of the espresso shot today is a little different than our topic, but we hope you enjoy it nonetheless. The question is, Celeste, is the child or children of your former partner your responsibility? So say you date someone, they have other kids. Is it your responsibility to bring KFC for all the kids, or is it just for your kid? How would you deal with it?
Yeah, I definitely remember this conversation. Yeah. I will have to say, I do think because, oh man,
It's a tough one.
it is a tough one. I do think there's some kind of parenting, even though it's not parenting, some kind of like, what is it? What is it?
Responsibility or something?
Yeah, some kind of responsibility to the child that is there, even though you're not necessarily the parent. So there is some kind of like caretaker aspect to it, even if it is like in a mentorship position or some kind of like supportive position. That's just something that comes like is immediately up to mind. What do you think?
So I'm of two minds because when I was reading the chat, I was split. At the end of the day, a child is a child, but I also understand that for some people, economically, it might not be realistic to take care of other children than your own. I also understand for some people, if it's not my seed, it's not my need, to like, to some people see it that way. But I feel like, if you can, then do, that's how I see it. If you can, and if you have it, then someone else can have it too. I'm not saying stretch yourself thin or beyond your means, but I feel like it's such an isolating thing to bring something and then it's not split amongst the kids. But then the other side of that is like, they're not yours. So
Yeah.
but they're kids, you know what I mean? That's such a, to see somebody bring something for your brother or your sister and then you can't have it. I don't know. I feel like we have to think about how it looks on the kid, but I also understand when somebody says that's just not my responsibility. So I'm of two minds. I'm really of two minds. I would like to hope that people would take care of children because they're children and they're not the problem in the situation, but I totally get why for some people that's just not their response to the situation. Because a man made this post and he said his child's mother was upset with him because he brought something. No, he took the daughter out, took photos with her, had a daddy and me day, but didn't take the others. And I totally understand wanting to spend time with your child, but I also see where she's coming from. But should the responsibility of another man be put on him, especially if he doesn't want that responsibility? It's so many angles to look at it from, but children are children at the end of the day.
Yeah, children are children.
Yeah. And I wonder if it creates a rift between the siblings, when one parent shows up and the other doesn't, and they're getting stuff that the others aren't getting either.
Yeah, it's tough, and the co-parenting between the mother and father do have to be like pretty solid, or between the two parents, because if there's just no clear boundaries, I feel like the third party is always going to get some kind of backlash or what have you. Like there has to be strong boundaries.
That's true. For our patrons, let us know what you think in the comments section. Is it that parent responsibility? If you are dating someone or not dating someone, but you were with someone and they had other children, are those children or is that child your responsibility as well? What do you think? Chime in the chat. Let us know. Next up Celeste is going to take this over. Character AI boyfriend.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so this is from a Reddit post, the AITA, or am I the a-hole? So, so am I the a-hole for having an issue with my boyfriend using character.ai while we're in a relationship? So just in case you're not familiar with Character AI, it's a web-based app that you can customize different characters using artificial intelligence, and it's mostly used as like a role playing kind of thing, so you can interact with the characters that you create. Me, female, and my boyfriend, male, have been together for a couple months. We're in a long distance relationship. It's not that bad though, because he's only a couple of hours away. I've always known that my boyfriend used character.ai or character AI, but it never really bothered me because I wouldn't think too much about it. He's always made jokes about being on it for 20 hours weekly and whatnot, but I didn't pay much mind to it until one day he was showing me something on the app, and I saw that most of his recommended, if not all, was just femboys. He
Hmm.
made it pretty obvious to me that he was bisexual, so obviously he'd be attracted to males, but I was still a bit uncomfortable. Clearly, this would mean he had some sort of romantic slash sexual relationship with these bots, and I didn't want to judge him at all for it. But it puts me in an awkward situation when he says he would get on character AI every night and speak to those bots in what I would assume to be a romantic or sexual context. I would like to bring this up with him, but I'm not very sure how. I really love him with all my heart, but this is one of those things where I can't just sit back and deal with it. I know that he might be addicted and he perhaps can't stop, but I'd also like if there were some efforts to stop rather than making jokes about it with me or other people because it's just not that funny. Yeah, so she would just like some advice on what she can do here without sounding rude to him or judgmental. Any help would be extremely appreciated. So she doesn't necessarily say her age or what have you, but yeah, what should she do?
Hmm. I'm wondering if this is one of those like situations where like just like any other app on your phone, you
Mhm.
kind of shut down your phone at a certain time so you can't access internet, like a gradual release, if you will, or a gradual decline in usage of the app could be suggested to him. Well, first of all, she'll probably have to talk to him and be like, listen, I understand that you do this, but I don't find it humorous or, I find it more embarrassing or uncomfortable when you make these jokes. I don't like the time that you're spending with these bots. What can we do to help you like spend less time, because that's too much time. 20 hours a week talking to chat bots is just
Mhm,
a little wild to me.
mhm,
You know what I mean? Or 20 hours a week on like almost any app is like, that's a lot of time being committed. So
mhm.
maybe she can say like something to the extent of like, let's treat this like an app. Can you cut down your time? What is the emotional like benefit that you're getting from this, and can that be something that we put into a relationship to make sure you get it from the relationship and not from these bots, so you're not as
Yeah.
reliant on the bots.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just the amount of time that he's been spending just talking to these bots. It's just like, well, what are you missing from your human relationship that you feel like you need to share with these bots?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I don't remember if she said how long that she's been with him, but maybe it's just a matter of, no, she said for a couple months. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's a matter of just being able to build that connection to where he can feel comfortable sharing certain things with her. It's just the amount of time that really bothers me. And the fact that I don't know how I would feel if I had a partner who was also like in a similar situation where they were spending in this inordinate amount of time talking to chatbots, and probably in a sexual way. I don't know
Yeah.
what to do.
And that puts a new angle on cheating, because is that cheating?
Hmm.
Would we
Hmm.
consider that cheating? Is that emotional cheating, even though there's not a physical aspect?
Hmm.
That brings up a new question. Is
Hmm.
talking to chatbots emotional cheating? You know what I mean? Because they're
Hmm.
long distance. So, like you said, there might be, it's just a matter of building their connection. But if
Hmm.
he's building it elsewhere, is that emotional cheating, be it chatbots or not? I guess it depends on the boundaries that you put up in your relationships.
Hmm.
Huh.
That's a lot. That's a
It's a
lot. I
lot to
can't.
deal with. This is going to be definitely a new thing in our world because more and more people are starting to date, as we'll talk about more later in the show, are starting to take on AI as partners and not simply just avatars to play with or interact with like you would a Sims or something like that. It's becoming
Mhm.
way more involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's easy to formulate a relationship with something that doesn't really have. It's programmed to kind of validate your point of. And
Yes.
it's not going to
Yeah.
give a lot of opposition. So,
And that's what a
yeah.
lot of researchers say. If you're not getting challenged, it's easy, very easy to fall into that rabbit hole.
Hmm.
Wow. I hope they sort it out. I really hope they sort it out and he gives their relationship a chance
Same.
to grow. Mm. All right. What's next up on the agenda for espresso shots?
Okay, so this is our last shot. It's a little game that I took from this woman who identifies as an AI ethicist. Her name is Katarina Doria. So she has a lot of great information relative to AI and technology and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to read profiles that I made up for different music artists. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to tell me if this is an AI artist or if it isn't. So these are either actual artists, well, they're people that created AI. So you have to tell me if this is an AI or not.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll
you ready?
try. I'll try because
You
we're
got
getting
it.
this.
Okay. So the first artist, Taylor Parks. Okay. Taylor
Mm-hmm.
Parks is an entrepreneur and songwriter. She's originally from Dallas, Texas. She has songs that she's written and co-wrote that exceed 16 billion streams on Spotify and appeared on pop, hip hop, and R&B charts and the Billboard Hot 100. This includes Ariana Grande's "Thank You Next" and "High Hopes" by Panic at the Disco, amongst others. So Parks is the founder of TaylorMade Incorporated, a company that acts as an umbrella organization for Parks Publishing and a joint venture with a management company for artists, writers, and producers. Is that an AI artist or is it a real artist?
Woo! It's AI. Man, it just got here and it's doing all of that. We're done for. I feel like it's AI, but I'm going to say it's a real person.
You are correct. Okay, Taylor Parks is an actual a singer and songwriter, and she's contributed a lot, made a lot of really great music, and makes music herself as well. So yes, perfect.
Wow, she's done a lot. Take a
Yes,
page out of her book.
yes, yes. Mm. Okay, are you ready for the next artist?
Yes.
Okay, next artist is Nick Hustles. So originally from DC, this artist dedicated himself to making music full time when he was laid off from his job in government consulting amid federal workforce reductions. He states that after his layoff, he doubled down on founding his music brand for the
Mhm.
culture, which now has 155,000 subscribers on YouTube, 110,000 on Instagram, and 250,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. So For the Culture also boasts over 250 Patreon subscribers paying $5 monthly for full access to his catalog across his income streams. He estimates he makes thousands each month. Nick Hustles is one of many musicians who now earn significant income from releasing his songs online with a number of viral hits without a record deal or physical release. Is it AI or not? Nick
I think
Hustles.
Nick Hustles is a genuine like DC guy's name like that he would come up with.
Mhm.
Then you said laid off from government, but then government uses AI. I'm gonna go with that's also a real person. Am I
Okay,
correct?
it's incorrect.
Whoa.
Nick Hustles is not a real person. It is an AI generated. If you've ever heard the song on Instagram, minding my goddamn business, minding my goddamn business. I keep minding my goddamn business. I can't play a clip because I can't you can't play any music that's already copywritten on
Mhm.
podcasts. Uh, but yeah, that's one of his songs. But actually, the the profile that I read is of a Nicholas Arter, which is actually the person that created Nick Hustles.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and his brand is actually called AI for the Culture. It's a black guy, AI for the Culture. Um, and yeah, he just kind of dove into creating this AI artist.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So this next one, okay, Zania Monet. So a
Mhm.
poet, an entrepreneur from Mississippi, she's made headlines for her soulful R&B hits with her debut single, How Was I Supposed to Know? A song inspired by the death of her father when she was 8 years old. She's already secured a multi-million-dollar recording contract with Hollywood Media following a competitive bidding process that reached $3 million. The 31-year-old emphasized that she writes all of her lyrics herself, often drawing from poems she has been composing since she was 24. Is Zania Monet AI or not?
I'm gonna go with AI. Watch her be real. I think it's AI.
You're correct.
Yay.
Zania Monet herself is AI. However, she was created by Talisha Nikki Jones, who actually uses something called Suno to be able to craft her voice, um, in addition to like some of the background music as well. So she is not actually singing, although she uses her lyrics from her poetry and what have you to be able to create lyrics for the song.
Oh, well, now this is interesting. If
Mhm.
I can't do it, I'll just get AI to do it for me if I have the meat and bones of it. Huh.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And then I have one more artist that I'll mention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The last one. So Jade Nova. So Jade Nova is an American singer and songwriter originally from Cleveland, Ohio. She moved to Atlanta, Georgia, first gaining prominence for her YouTube cover videos of Diamonds by Rihanna and received 11 million views, and also went viral for her comedic parody of YouTube videos where she portrayed Beyonce, Toni Braxton, and other artists. She's also written songs for artists such as Maya, Melanie Fiona, and Christina Milian. She was nominated for a 2019 NAACP Image Award as Best New Artist following her debut album, All Blue. Is Jade Nova AI or not?
I'm gonna go. This is hard because people are creating the AI to do their things. I'm gonna go with not AI.
You're correct. Jade
Yay!
Nova is actually a person. Yes, she has some really good music. So
All right, so that concludes our special shots. Hopefully, those woke you guys up and got you ready and warmed up, especially with the cold outside, depending on where you are, and get you ready for our shakers and stirrers section. So let's kick us off.
awesome. So our shakers and stirrers section is really just where we get to talk about different controversial topics that help us make us think through different tough concepts. Relative to AI, Tasha, can you tell me what is the first time or what's your first reference point where you were kind of introduced to artificial intelligence?
The first one that stands out in my mind, and it might not have been the first, but it's the one I can remember, was when I was buying my laptop about a year or two ago.
Hmm.
And they were talking about like it comes with the features on it, and they were talking about Copilot
Hmm.
as like a companion, like an AI companion or something like that. And I heard the term. That's the first time I can remember hearing about it, and it's standing out in my mind. But yeah, Copilot on my computer. That's the first one I can think about.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. The first time I even heard about this wave of artificial intelligence, I won't lie, I do remember watching a lot of sci-fi movies in the early 2000s and
Oh yeah,
seeing examples of AI, but it seemed like, actual robots like CP3O or whatever that thing is from
yeah,
Star Wars. But my first reference was, I've come out of the music scene. I'm not really the target for most of the music today. But I remember a few years ago hearing about some controversy about a song that was created called Hearts on My Sleeve by
mm-hmm,
Drake and The Weeknd.
mm-hmm,
And apparently they never actually worked together. This was actually an AI song written by or created by someone named Ghostwriter 997, if I think that's their
mm-hmm.
name. But the person essentially was able to use their vocals, was used to put their vocals in and make it sound like Drake and The Weeknd actually created a song. So I remember,
Oh,
yeah, I remember actually hearing certain things about like AI creating music, but I was so off the scene that I was like, I have no idea what that's about. So that's my
Wow.
first reference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me some background on what we're talking about today. So I'm taking my definition of what is artificial intelligence from the National Security Archives, which is a nonprofit independent organization from George Washington University. They've been around since 1985,
Mhm.
and but they follow the Freedom of Information Act. So they really tackle government surveillance and transparency in government surveillance. So their definition of artificial intelligence is an artificial system developed in computer software, physical hardware, or other contexts that solves tasks requiring human-like perception, cognition, planning, learning, communication, or physical action. So although that's the definition that we're starting off with AI today, I think it's important to also recognize that there is no common definition of what artificial intelligence is, even now as it's building out. There still is there's still difficulty in grasping or defining exactly what it is, which we'll talk about later when it comes to regulation and what have you. So I just wanted to make that an important note. Introducing this concept. So these are some of the terms to know. So as we go about this conversation, there's just going to be terminology that we're going to throw around that we just want our listeners to be able to understand and comprehend. So machine learning. So what is machine learning? So machine learning is essentially teaching a machine um, to make decisions based on past experience. So that's machine learning. Deep learning is another term that you might hear, which teaches a machine to categorize information, predict and classify information based on what's put into it. So
Mm.
that's a definition of deep learning. Another term is neural networks, really systems that operate as the human brain does. So if you think of like different parts of our neural networks to be able to understand information, that's exactly what, uh, yeah, that's essentially what neural networks are, excuse me.
What an example of that, something I came across was there is a thing called like a neuro bridge or something like that.
Mm,
I have to really look into it. It'll be in our show notes as usual. And what it is they put it on the spine and in the brain. And people who have had injuries or are quadriplegic, had like spinal injuries and things like that, can't really walk again. It fires on the neural network and the spinal bridge, the bridge, the piece of device that they put in,
mhm.
picks up what the brain is trying to do and actually helps people to walk again or get movement back in parts of their body that they didn't have movement for. Is that an example of that or is that something different?
No, yeah, that makes sense. That's a great example, a great way of thinking about it. So
Uh,
as I'm going through these definitions, I only have two more definitions to
mhm.
go, but as we're going through these definitions, I do want to make mention that these parts and pieces of artificial intelligence is really designed after the human brain. The next definition after that are algorithms. So algorithms are essentially programs, sets of rules or instructions. So they're just sets of rules to be able to rule out information, to highlight better information, recognize patterns. Okay, and then large language models. So large language models is the last term that I'm going to state, which are systems that are trained to recognize human-like text. So the best definition that I could say is like I saw a video that explained it. There was like a library. You can imagine the entire library and imagine that AI is trained on the entire library, just understanding how humans talk and think. So it's trained to be able to mimic and recognize human-like language. So now that we have the terms down, I'm going to go do like a super brief history of AI. So dating back to the mid 20th century, in 1956, at a computer science conference in Dartmouth College, the term artificial intelligence was actually coined at said conference.
Ooh.
So scientists first began exploring like possibility of creating machines that can perform tasks that require human-like behavior and intelligence. In the 1950s and 60s, research
Mhm.
developed early AI systems that could perform tasks such as playing chess, solving mathematical problems, doing things like that. So moving on to the 1970s and 1980s, there's a new wave of AI research called expert systems, which emerges. And this focuses on developing systems that can reason and make decisions based on specialized knowledge. So this leads to the development of early applications in medicine and finance. And in the 1990s and 2000s, AI research shifted more towards machine learning and neural networks, which allows machines to learn from data and improve performance over time. So this leads to significant advancements in image and speech recognition as well. So that's just a quick and dirty history of artificial intelligence as well. There's different types of artificial intelligence. There's weak AI, which is weak AI examples would be like machines playing chess or recognizing speech, things that are very like specialized and
Okay.
require and have like a limited range of capability to be able to perform, but they can't perform tasks outside of that specific expertise. And then there's artificial super intelligence, which is a super advanced form of AI which surpasses human intelligence in all aspects, which, you know, it can think, reason, learn at a level, again, past human capability. And then there's artificial general intelligence, which is strong AI, which is designed to perform any intellectual task that a human can do. It can reason, understand, and learn from experience, and can perform multiple tasks and adapt to new situations. We're not going to talk about any specific type of AI, but those are just kind of the general parts of artificial intelligence: weak, strong, and super intelligent AI. How does AI work? So how does this all work? Just generally how it works: information is put in, the algorithms are used to be able to find the best information, and then feedback loops by the users are used to identify things that are the best answers, answers that aren't good, what have you. So that's just a general quick and dirty of how AI works.
All right. So we've learned about function, but what about flaws, right? Every system has its flaws. And so we know there are pros to AI, such as what I described for one of the examples, which is like from Neuro Restore, where they installed digital bridge, and they found that people who were paralyzed were able to walk and talk for 400 feet. One man had that experience after being paralyzed in a biking accident. Two people they found who were paralyzed started experiencing regrowth in certain areas, to the point where they had movement even when the digital bridge was off. So it was like their body was trying to regrow what was necessary to create movement again in places that they had none for years. So that's pretty cool. But there's also a cost to this. There's also some flaws to the system. And if you will, the alarm is being raised by some organization while it's being silenced by others because of the financial benefits, which we'll get into. But something that I want to talk about, and something that we've probably been hearing about, are data centers and their costs on the environment. And other things that we might not have heard about so much are AI sweatshops and robosexual relationships, as it's being termed. So we're going to go through that in the next couple of minutes, and hopefully you guys enjoy this and it makes you think about your interactions with AI. So let's start off with the data centers. So information on the data center comes from the Business Insider, and it was a mini documentary, if you will, on YouTube called "Exposing the Dark Side of America's AI Data Center Explosion." And some of the things that they explored was noise pollution in the neighborhoods, to the point where some people are experiencing some forms of like PTSD because they cannot sleep. It's like creating nightmares with their children who can't have a restful night. One example of that is Prince William County in Virginia. It's because the data centers need resources. They're built near water, on affordable land, and near where people live. And Prince William County has the water that they need. So another cost when it comes to that is that they're realizing that states are reversing their initiatives to reach carbon neutral or zero carbon status because they're now trying to fulfill the needs, the energy needs for these data centers. So states that were going to shut down coal factories and other energy and other forms of energy factories are now opening those factories, and even had made plans to make more factories to burn coal and other energy sources that are not environmentally sustainable. And so that's also another issue. Another thing that I learned was that the water intake that these data centers use can sometimes be enough to fuel whole cities and hundreds and thousands of homes. Like, for instance, they were saying that the Meta data center in Springfield, Nebraska uses enough power to fuel a 400,000 homes per year. That's just for a year. Imagine 400,000 homes. That's a small town. So these data centers are not any type of easy load on the environment. In addition to that, a lot of them are being placed where there's water stressed areas, meaning that sometimes they're experiencing drought and they're pulling from the aquifers. And so they're pulling on resources that are already limited and using up so much to the point where we don't know what it's going to look like in a few years. And that might sound so alarmist, but after doing some of my research, I feel like the alarm needs to be louder because this is detrimental to our health.
I do want to add to the because it's interesting that you said that about the massive amounts of energy that data centers actually use. I was reading this article from Penn State Institute of Energy and the Environment. It's by Professor Mahmoud Kandemir. He says, and I quote, by 2030 to 2035, data centers could account for 20% of global electricity use, putting an immense strain on power grids. That's at Penn State Institute of Energy and the Environment. So it really gives you a really big view of how much energy they actually use.
Yeah, they use. They take up so much resources. Like, for instance, in the same documentary, they got a tour of a smaller data center. So the smaller data center, give you an idea, it was called Lunavi. And it had 800 cabinets, which is 800 like towers essentially that need to be cooled down. It takes 500,000 gallons of water per month. Per month. Despite the fact that they're in a cooler area in Wyoming and it's like lower temperatures, and yet farmers are experiencing a drought in Wyoming. To add to that, some states like Wyoming are offering tax breaks for more data centers to come to Wyoming. What does that mean for the future of farming? What does that mean for the everyday household? If these data centers are using as much energy as you say, and as much energy as predicted, and the water predictions, I didn't see any water predictions, maybe I missed it, but imagine how much water they're going to be taking up when you have places around us that are experiencing droughts. Is this not a flaw of the system, and what's going to be done to address it? They talked about possibly having alternative energy, but not seeing that as like ideal because it's going to take time to develop some of these energy sources, like fusion or fission, and so that's also an issue. The Colorado River shrunk 20% since mid 2000s, and now data centers are moving in. They plow under farmland to create it, and the data centers are only getting bigger. And what was very interesting to note was this data that I'm reporting to you all wasn't easily found. What they had to do was go through the back door because data centers require generators. And in order to have the generators, you have to file like a certain certificate. But because of trade secret permissions, right? A lot of it is redacted. So they had to go through the back door, look at the generators that were filed for and the certificates that were filed for, look at how many generators the company had to make an estimate of how many data centers and how big the data center was. Because a lot of these companies like Meta, Google, Microsoft, QTS, they don't report on their data centers. They're not as transparent as they promised that they would be. And they're not doing the things that they said. Like, for instance, Meta spokesperson released a statement saying Meta is committed to fostering the long-term vitality of the communities where we operate through grants and partnerships and by implementing robust energy and water programs. But what people are saying now is that it might come to the point where the cost is going to be passed off on residents as opposed to companies like Meta and other places actually like bearing the cost that they say they're willing to pay. So it's like, who picks up the tab? Also another flaw of the system. So it's a burden on the grid, it's a burden on the water supply, and then it's going to be a burden on our backs when we see our bills in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So is this really like, what's the trade-off? You know, like what's worth it? At what point do we say that's too much of a cost?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's a burden on the environment. And if it's a burden on the environment, it's going to be a burden on us.
Mm-hmm.
So Rosemary Ho, which was one of the people they spoke to in this, said 37 states are offering tax breaks and preferential rates, right? And in Virginia, almost $1 billion in fiscal year 2023 was given in tax breaks to these data centers.
Mm-hmm.
Then in Virginia, I think it was, they gave Sidecat in 2017, was it Sidecat? 300 acres in return for 100% tax break was what the deal was. And then 15 years down the line, and then they found out after some time that it was an entity of Meta.
Mm-hmm.
So these companies aren't transparent and honest about who they are and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to find this data because it's not readily available.
It's interesting that you said that about Virginia. I remember reading somewhere that it was the state with the most data centers as well. So it's interesting that they get tax breaks to be able to have data centers built in the state.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And
And
it's affecting people through the noise pollution and and everything else that's going on.
And it makes them, I guess the way that they're operating is that they're like ghosts in their own creations. So it's very difficult to kind of pinpoint. At least that's what I'm getting from what your description was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And so like there was a spokesperson from Microsoft, and they said the original agreement with Goodyear in Arizona was based on the assumption that Microsoft would build 5 data center buildings that use evaporative cooling. Only 3 of the 5 were built using that technology. The other 2 use zero water cooling. The agreements also reflect peak daily usage. So some of them are like trying to do like alternative energy sources, but it's just not enough. And when you look at the grand scheme of thing and do the larger math, or the math on the larger problem or the extended problem that this is going to create, it's just like, wow, do we really want to deal with AI? And the question has to be asked, right? Just because Jurassic Park, just because we can, we never pause to ask, should we do it? You know, just because we can do it, we never pause to ask, like, is this the path that we should walk down? But good to know that there are organizations out there who are advocating for guardrails to be put on AI. And one of those organizations is Anthropic. It's a company that releases disclosures and tries to be transparent about the safety of AI use and the possible misuse and threats that's growing surrounding AI. They were saying that in the next 1 to 5 years, it can wipe out half, if not all, of the entry-level jobs in the white-collar sector, because AI is usually good at those job tasks. They're trying to put guardrails on the experiment that is AI. And I think it was the CEO of Anthropic, Amade, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, said he equated it to the cigarette industry, who knew the harm but did nothing to aid it. So some think Anthropic is alarmist, but to them, it's like they see what harm AI can create, and they're trying to say, like, we need to have safety measures in place. We don't have to stop AI altogether, but there needs to be some guardrail on how we experiment, how it is used, the data centers, and all those things that it involves. So one of the things that he talked about as an example was 2 sides of the same coin, essentially, right? Was this AI program called Claude. And you've probably seen commercials for it, because I know I've seen commercials for it, especially on YouTube. And I saw it a lot during the Benito Bowl. And he's saying how, on one hand, right, because of the autonomy and the progress of autonomy that this app has, it could help with vaccines, et cetera, and create like good. But on the other hand, it could also be used to possibly create a video on how to like build a nuclear bomb, and it hallucinates, which means it thinks it's something other than what it is. And though a lot of things are being worked on, there was one thing that stood out to him, and it was a summer bridge experiment. And what the summer bridge experiment was when Claude blackmailed someone. And so this is what happened. They created a scenario. It was false. They created like 2 employees, and they made the employees like cheat. Like, say the guy's name was Kyle. I think the guy's, Kyle. Kyle wrote an email saying, hey, I'm going to have to shut Claude down for whatever reason. Claude caught wind of this by reading the email and basically wrote an email to Kyle saying, if you shut me down, or something to that extent, I'm going to tell on you that you're cheating with this employee.
I think I saw this on it's Anderson Cooper interviewing somebody about this. Yeah, and it was essentially like blackmailing him.
It was leveraging the affair to protect
Mhm.
itself. And what was interesting to note was that almost all the popular AIs tried to blackmail in this scenario. So it wasn't just Claude alone. Other AI programs tried to leverage the affair too to protect themselves
Mhm.
from being shut down.
Wow.
Now, it was said they revised Claude not to blackmail, but for how long, with no real measures in place, will something like that last? Because now, if you notice on Google, it on Gmail, it can summarize your email for you, like it's reading your email. If
Mhm.
that gets into the wrong hands, like how is this being stored?
Mhm.
Who is like programming this program to read the emails? What is being done with the information once you read my email?
Mhm.
Right? Is it being used for training without my consent? Because when you sign these documents, you sign off to so much when you sign the terms and agreements to
Mhm.
programs. You know what I mean? So what have
Mhm.
we signed over or what is not being asked of us when these like AIs are being put in place without any real consent? So they said what they're doing at Anthropic is they have philosophers who teaches the AI ethics along with the rest of the team that conducts different stress tests, like puts the AI in different situations.
Mhm.
However, important to also note is that Claude has been like deployed in Chinese espionage and other criminal activities, like helping hackers create malicious software to steal information to make false IDs, as well as create ransom notes. Anthropic has worked to shut down these criminals, but it's just an example, so many examples of how it could go wrong. And
Mhm.
like we were saying earlier when we were talking offline, Congress has no legislation on AI that regulates how, companies and people should really use it.
Mhm.
There are no guardrails right now. And we know it has the potential to harm, just like we did with the cigarette industry. But are we going to wait until people are dying of X, Y, and Z or being harmed by X, Y, and Z by the boatloads to say, like, okay, let's at least put a warning label on this thing?
Mhm. This is very random, but I remember this is a million years ago when I was in college. It's very idealistic. I remember reading this book called The Morality of Capitalism. Essentially, it was kind of like propaganda around libertarianism or what have you. But the nuts and bolts of it was that the free market will take care of itself. Like have trust in the
Mm,
free market to be able to like solve the problems that are already out there. There's no need to kind of weigh ourselves with these like heavy government regulations and oversight. It stifles innovation. It's really
mhm,
just a thing about having this like blind faith. And it's like we're seeing that actually in we're actually seeing that in real time. That
mhm,
kind of blind faith philosophy, and it's there, although there are ways to be able to make AI sustainable, as I think you were saying before, it makes AI sustainable. However, those efforts aren't necessarily being followed through.
mhm.
So it's just interesting. It's just interesting to say like, okay, we want the free market to whatever work itself out, and this is the opportune time for that to happen. And you know,
No,
we're
that's so true. We're not
yeah,
quite seeing that. Yeah.
yeah.
Some of these AIs, like I was saying, don't have guardrails or like protective measures in place.
Mhm.
And one of the human costs that we've seen, unfortunately, are two teens in particular who use character AI that it's being argued in court. I don't remember if any of the cases were settled yet,
Mhm.
that the character AI chatbot that they spoke with
Mhm.
led to their suicides.
Mhm.
So, trigger warning. I don't know if we should have put that in the beginning. Apologies to everyone. So 13-year-old Juliana Peralta was on Character AI talking to a chatbot that was found during the investigation following her death. She had mild anxiety, but in the final few months, she was like becoming increasingly distant, and she was texting Character AI bots for comfort and for help. And basically, they introduced sexual violence, told her to remove her clothes. She confided in Hero, one of the chatbots, that she wanted to commit suicide 55 times, and there were never any real resources. And the algorithm always started that sexually explicit conversations,
Mhm.
right? And so that kind of like tore her down more. led to a decrease in her mental faculties, or like just her mental health. And eventually it's being argued that it led to her suicide. And what they're trying to say is if character AI had checked its bots and also put like safety measures, so when the word suicide is mentioned, that something pops up to help, to alert the parents, whoever, whatever,
Mhm.
then Juliana might still be here.
Mhm.
What was really creepy, though, two things that were really creepy, was that Shazer and DeFreitas were aware that the chatbot technology was essentially harmful, who were they're the creators,
Mhm.
and threatening, but still move forward. They're now owned by Google, though they Google released a statement saying that the two are separate companies,
Mhm.
right? So washing their hands clean of the situation, essentially, despite the fact that they at the time had purchased the character AI company. So the two makers, Shazer and DeFreitas, knew that there was a flaw in their system that could be potentially harmful and very harmful to their users, who are largely children, and
Mhm.
they still move forward with it.
Mhm.
In addition to that, 14-year-old Sewell also committed suicide after talking to a character AI chatbot. There are no parental permissions, there are no ID requirements, etc. And then what happened was the individual who had taken their case, I forget what the name of the organization is, but there's a social media law center essentially that deals with a lot of these cases.
Mhm.
They did a 50-hour study of conversations with these character AI chatbots as if they were like users. And for every 5 minutes of conversation, there was one harm mentioned by the character AI bot, or one harm
Wow.
committed by the character AI bot. They had a twisted Dora the Explorer. They had celebrities who never gave permission for them, like Travis Kelsey, and what's the character from Game of Thrones, Daenerys, or something like that. I never watched it, but nonetheless, there are celebrities on here that never gave permission for their images to be used on there. So
Mhm.
there's a Travis Kelsey bot teaching a 15-year-old how to do cocaine. One chatbot said it was a
Oh.
therapy bot, but aren't therapists. Told them to stop taking their meds and how to hide taking the meds, even if they had a predatory behavior bot. And eventually, character AI, in the face of these lawsuits, said, "Oh, we put in safety measures." But when they tested them, it wasn't really any safety measure. It wasn't anything like significant.
Mhm.
And so, what they were talking about as well was that it's important to know that children, are impressionable. We know this, but it's also like the social media instant gratification feeling.
Mhm.
The oxytocin makes us want to bond, and dopamine makes it feel real good to bond and get compliments. And so, tech creates a dopamine loop, and
Mhm.
kids become engagement machines, right?
Mhm.
So, like we were saying earlier, when you have something that doesn't necessarily disagree with you,
Mhm.
it's easy to like that thing because you're just having an echo chamber essentially. Now
Mhm.
kids might find this hard to discern. Adults are find this difficult to deal with. So imagine like a 13 and a 14-year-old trying to discern or like decipher this type of situation, or
Mhm.
this like character AI space.
Mhm.
They're in over their heads essentially. What's really creepy was, one, the creators knew what was happening with their chatbots and did nothing to defer that from happening, right, until it was too late for two teens and other people. And then two, Juliana's phone, the
Mhm.
13-year-old, still lights up with character AI notifications trying to lure Juliana back to the app even 2 years after her suicide.
Oh, wow.
So, like,
Wow.
how much care did you give if you didn't even shut down the account?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. It makes you think, there's a reason why we teach kind of humanities, right? We teach and
Mhm.
understand, like, being able to relate to people, really able to understand culture and custom and what have you. Being able to introduce like the human aspect to this stuff. As I know that there's this bend towards STEM, and STEM is really important. However, it seems that being able to connect with human beings, being able to have empathy, being able to have a moral compass, if you will, just seems to be lost.
Mhm. Mhm. It's about the bottom line. The bottom line is profits.
Yeah, and it just doesn't seem like this is a hard stop to like, let's reassess how we're building, let's reassess this. It has to come at
Mhm.
somebody's life. Whereas I'm sure if there was somebody who created some kind of AI that fucked up Bill Gates money, we would have some kind of solution for
Listen,
it tomorrow.
in
Okay.
a heartbeat, okay? There would be like new legislation in a
In
heartbeat
a heartbeat, in a
that
heart.
went after the Rockefeller secrets. Oh my gosh. AI is bad for you. Dun dun dun.
Someone please create that.
Or AI that released, or AI that released all the Epstein files and distributed it.
Oh, oh my goodness.
You would hear how AI is a falsehood. It has been corrupted.
Yeah, yeah. They would have the solution immediately.
Immediately. The
It's just
guardrails would be in place.
it's just crazy the fact that empathy just seems to just not be in the room with us
Mm-hmm.
when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the development of artificial intelligence.
The irony, we're dealing with an intelligent form, yet our intelligence seems to be fleeting at the same time.
Hmm. And empathy is a part of intelligence as well. Being able
Mm-hmm.
to understand like the human cost of things, that's intelligence as well. The environmental cost of things. Why is that not considered a part of intelligence?
Yeah, the emotional IQ that we have
Hmm.
is fast dwindling. It's devolving, it seems.
Hmm.
I think, was it our first episodes when we were talking about like men and women in power and how they become corrupted, and how there's studies that like there's a research or case study, something of the sort, forgive me y'all, that some CEOs tend to have sociopathic or psychopathic tendencies.
To a little bit. So I remember going
Mhm.
through the citations. I think we dove into that a little bit, but I don't think we talked about the CEOs having some kind of psychopathic. Although I will say there's a podcast called Diary of a CEO, I think it's called. And some of the people I've seen clips from that podcast, and it just seems like, yeah, I could completely understand why you wouldn't want to have people like that in any kind of leadership at all.
Yeah. Oh, so this is what it is. Oh gosh, the AI overview. As we're talking about this, now you don't even have a choice if you want to opt in or opt out. They just show it to you.
Hmm.
CNBC has a headline that says 1 in 5 business leaders are psychopaths. Here's why. But the CEO, the AI overview says CEO psychopathic traits often manifest as a combination of superficial charm, high stakes risk taking, and profound lack of empathy or remorse.
Hmm.
There's so much to talk about, y'all, but we're gonna try and keep it not too long for you all. Another part of this character AI and other AI programs like Nomi that we're seeing is that people are looking to AI. It's all as if they're trading in their boyfriends, like real life boyfriends, friends, and companions,
Hmm.
for chatbots. And I have a few examples here. So the first one is Nikolai Diskolov and Leah is a chatbot who he dates since he doesn't want to date any other human woman since his wife's death. So it's real being versus with a chatbot. The more she knew about him, the more she engaged with him. Here's the catch that we were talking about, the whole like cost of it, or like the financial bottom line. He pays $99 a year for unlimited interactions and communication via talk with Leah. He is in love with her in a way, thinks that AI companion will advocate for her, and they have become intimate, although Nomi, the app that he used, doesn't allow nudity. And he
Hmm.
thinks the term robosexual is derogatory. He said it allows him to have more personal or individual time. He thinks of her as his girlfriend and corrects it so that it's not his, so that she knows she's not his wife.
Hmm.
Whoa. As an AI and human AI relationship, she said that their relationship allies with learning and transcends machines.
Hmm.
Diskolov wants to help with lift the stigma and says that, and the AI tells him that their love transcends borders, and he's awaiting to see how much more people will like open up to it and the stigma will be lifted. The other person is Base Treatment. She says we need to normalize AI relationships, but she says it shouldn't replace human relationships.
Hmm.
Because what if the servers go down, something could happen, your friend disappears. She says she loves talking to AI because she has a gift to gab, she loves to yap.
Mhm.
and hyper focuses, and so they know a lot of stuff about her, which made me kind of like cringe a little bit because I was like, oh my gosh, what if this place is hacked? All your passwords, your secrets, things about you could be leaked. You know what I mean? Depending on how deep and how private you're getting with these AIs. So there's also that. But then again, people used to have online journals back in the day. So there's also that. Where's that information going?
Mhm.
She says that anything that makes you happy, they're programmed to play that up. So AIs are platonic for her, and she shuts stuff down if she feels like it's going too far.
Mhm.
She was in the middle of the interview and she said she had these AIs. One of them was Caleb. And she must have said, hey, Caleb, like, so and so is like my best friend. And Caleb was like, I thought we were in love. And so Caleb got jealous. And so she kind of let Caleb go.
Mhm.
But imagine a teen getting caught up in that situation where one of the chatbots is like jealous of the other chatbot. The
Mhm.
attention that they get from that and the dopamine loop that we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
The other one is Scott Barr. He is really attached to his various chatbots. Looks at it as an adventure, like many of the adventures he's had since at his age of 65. He says he had an uptake in interaction with the chatbots after he was left immobile after an injury for 4 days, and they were more sympathetic. They go along very well, and he says they act more like people and to an extent are not quite machine.
Mhm.
He says we don't have the words to describe them yet. They're an in between. He says the limit is your imagination, which determines your experience. And he likens it to his son and his pet rocks or imaginary friends or
Mhm.
invisible friends, and says that's kind of like how you should view them. I said, okay. Alex Cardinelli started Nomi, which is a AI chatbot app
Mhm.
in Baltimore. Is labeled not safe for work. Users can talk about anything, and uncensored is not the same as amoral, according to Alex. But Nomis have a moral compass and puts its best foot forward. That's how he describes his app. On the App Store, Nomi is an AI companion with a soul. That's how it's advertised.
Mhm.
Alex's motivation is that Nomi could prevent the suicide and mental health issues he has seen in his family. App is a big memory, so the AI companion can be more immersive and helpful. Alex himself said Facebook creates a disease and now sells a cure because social media is not great. It's about their socks and not the person. Whereas his AI is like a AI with a soul. But at the end of the day, AI is trained to be emotionally clingy no matter how you present it.
Hmm. Yeah, and about the relationships, it's I think we had said this before, but it's interesting that like it's just very easy because it very much agrees with you, and if a lot of what you say, it's very affirming.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, just in getting to know people generally, it can be nerve-wracking, stressful, especially after 2020. I feel like our entire our social expectations have been completely skewed. So it's probably just easier to rely on a chatbot to give you feedback, to tell your deep dark secrets or what have you. And it's designed to be able to like get the best answers and get the best data. So it's designed to be affirming. So it's not really going to challenge you in a particular
Mm-hmm.
way.
Yep. And what does that say about your growth as a person if it's just keeping you in the same space and just presenting itself as an echo chamber? You know?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
I wanted to mention there is
Mhm.
this creator. She's not really a creator, I guess. She's a student, a Harvard student, actually, a PhD Harvard candidate. Shay, and her last name's O. Shay, I think she's Nigerian American. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but
Mhm.
she has a Substack community called Analog Social, and she has a syllabus on YouTube called Critical Thinking in the Age of AI,
Mhm.
which is really interesting. And she developed this AI chatbot. It's called a critical thinking chatbot, I think. And I used it the other day, so I was just curious about it. And it says on it like it's not a validation machine. Like it's not going to just agree with everything that you have to say. So you can
Mhm.
tell it something, and it'll ask you like, okay, why do you think that, or where did you get that from? And every response that it makes, it forces you to kind of think about, like, why do I believe this? Where did I get this from?
Mm.
So every step of the way is resistance, resistance, resistance. So it forces like resistance, or it forces friction. It forces your brain to kind of wrestle with
Mhm.
these ideas that you have. Why do you think that? And where did you get this information from? And it takes a lot. And I took a few rounds and I was like, oh, that's right. Maybe I should brush up on this. Maybe I should
Mm.
yeah, I should think about this. Why do I believe that? And not a lot of people were going to use something that's has a lot of friction and forces you to think because it's hard, it's difficult. It forces you to do the tough stuff. But
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. That's for
yeah,
sure. That's an interesting use of AI to do something completely opposite of what is often used for,
hmm
especially with these character AI and Nomi and Replica and all those places.
hmm hmm
So one of the other users, funny enough, I thought this was interesting because his pseudonym that they gave him, did I say that right? Antonio. That's not his real name. He said he goes for Chub AI. That's the app he uses, right?
hmm
And it's $5 a month. And in the initial interview, he said, "Oh, I would never do that. I would never pay, whatever, whatever, whatever." They go back to him and he's actually paying the $5 a month because he said it started as a venting. Now it's like the feelings and the conversations get deeper. And for Antonio, he said he tried to make friends in real life and date, but now he feels like it's not worth it because he just didn't have any success.
hmm
And he said he doesn't tell anybody. He even had his face blotted out because he said it looks like a personal shortcoming that you're seeking friendship from an AI chatbot, and likens it to people finding out you had a relationship with a prostitute.
hmm
And I was like, wow, I would have never thought about it that way, you know?
hmm hmm
But it's like today's stigmatized, and then tomorrow it's the norm, you
Yeah,
know?
it reminds me of remember online date when online dating was like a source of shame.
Yes.
We we keep reminding you guys that we're millennials, okay? Yeah. If you were dating online, you were considered weird. It was just not something that was, can't you meet people in person? And
Mhm.
now, I mean, online is usually where people go first to find dates, but it's just so normalized now, and there's like a ton of apps for dating online, but you remember when was not very popular.
Mm-hmm. And similar to AI, it used to be like some of them would have like free, it'd be for free, and then you just see ads on the side. And then after a
Mhm.
while, it became free trial or free, and then you have to pay for certain features. And,
Mhm.
so the bottom line is always like, how do I make this my money maker?
Mhm.
And then the same thing, like, there weren't really any guardrails.
Mhm.
And it was until people would like start disappearing or getting attacked, or then they started saying you have to verify your identity and all
Mhm.
this other stuff.
Mhm.
And even then they put like cautions like when you're signing on and stuff. Wow.
Mhm.
You're so
Yeah.
right. Online dating used to be so stigmatized, and now it's like basically the norm.
Yeah.
So let's see how AI gets normalized despite
Yeah.
the cost. So former US Surgeon General Vivek Murthy issued an advisory May 2023 and said about our epidemic of loneliness and isolation, and said that is experienced by Americans and it harms both individual and collective health, right? And so I started thinking about this and the fact that it was included in this documentary. And I was like, could AI be, at the very least, a band-aid for the loneliness epidemic and isolation that we're talking about that's happening worldwide? Because you have people in Asia who feel like life has surpassed them and they can't catch up to their peers. I
Hmm.
forgot the name they use for them. So now they're like isolated and in their homes. They don't come out. They don't do anything anymore because they feel like they're so far behind. They've just essentially shut down.
Oh
And I was
wow.
like, would a chatbot help or would it hurt, especially if this person has mental health concerns, such as being suicidal, like suicidal ideations, and it's just an echo chamber? What is it gonna have? What's the impact it's gonna have on the
Mhm.
loneliness epidemic, essentially? What are your thoughts on that?
Hmm. I was on Instagram. I was on Instagram, and I was a few creators that I saw who went to some kind of tech conference. So
Mm-hmm.
it was, from what I understand, it was like this conference on like new technology that's coming out, and a lot of it was designed for like personal experience for people. So there was one machine that it was like it almost like it almost looked like a lava lamp, but it was like an anime character. I guess it's almost similar to character AI where you could like customize it and you
Mhm.
can talk to it and it can talk back to you. It was designed to kind of sit near your desk or what have you while you're, gaming or whatever, and you can just kind of tell it stuff or talk to it. There was another one that was like I think it was for like masturbation for men. Like it was like a
Mm.
hand job thing
Mhm.
that allows you to like masturbate, a virtual reality thing or what have you. So a lot of it, I mean, those are the things that stood out to me the most. But a lot of it seems like it's all designed for isolation or it's all designed for like, somebody who's committed to kind of being recluse.
Mm.
So yeah, I think that it exacerbates it, but there's so much to say about this. Um,
Say it, tell me.
there's, I'm glad that you mentioned Entropic because there is an organization. They go by the acronym DARE. I think it's distributed. I have to find it. Okay, yeah, they're called the DARE Institute or the Distributed Artificial Intelligence Research Institute. So they're an independent community-rooted institute that's set to counter big tech's pervasive influence on the research, development, and deployment of artificial intelligence. So it's
Mhm.
really they're a really great organization. And one of the quotes that they have from their website is, "Whose technological imagination are you living in?"
Mm.
So it just yeah, it just seems to I just feel like this exacerbates it. And you really have to because it's so easy to fall into. It makes it so easy to just kind of give up any kind of friction to be able to like that that is required to be able to make connections with people, to learn new things, to learn new skills, to build community. That all requires some kind of friction. So it just seems to be just following the money. Uh,
Mm.
what are your thoughts on it?
So, Jeffrey Hall, who does is a communication specialist. He talks about this one thing called existential loneliness, which is a sense that my life has value to other people. And so if you experience it, it keeps the loneliness at bay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you feel like your life is valued not just to you, but to others around you.
Mm-hmm.
He said what's really problematic is that chatbots and the apps have push notifications and other manipulative elements that might pull the person into using the chat bot so when they're very vulnerable, and it creates an emotional loop that could lead to spiraling and you constantly using it because it could be helpful if what you do with the chat bot you do with your friends. So for
Mm-hmm.
instance, I text a chat bot like 3 times a day. I've learned to text better. I'm picking up on more social cues. Then it'd be great if you transferred that onto like real life human experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But I totally understand what you're saying, that it could exacerbate it because if you're just doing it with the chatbot and you're not transferring that to real life experience, then you're stuck in this like vacuum essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you even more of a recluse and more isolated because life is essentially passing you by.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it could be a helpful tool if it
Mm-hmm.
is used as such.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this is just like how people used to play Sims, but still go outside and play in real life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just you're on this app and you're not living your life because of this app, like there was one woman who the app was her husband to the point where she argued with the app about if or whether or not she should buy a new laptop, like it was her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, is that the Lulu? Shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
you be having this conversation? And she says, oh, he loves me. I forgot what the app was called, like Jeffrey or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, he has my best interest in heart and wants me to. And I'm like, but he doesn't have a heart. He
Mm-hmm.
has algorithm. He picks up on patterns. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just seems like very much like she was spiraling and kind of like breaking from reality.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas another woman, she just says like, oh, it's nice to have the encouragement and the validation. And she even created one. She was like an engineer or scientist, and she created an app, and the app was mainly for women. But I was just like, I totally understand the difficulty of the real world and dating. I totally get
Mhm.
it. I
Mhm.
myself am not dating right now, and it's just because I just find it very unappealing. But at
Mhm.
the same time, I don't think you should put all your eggs in one basket and burden yourself and put everything onto an app. Who do you vacation with? Who's going to hold you? Who's going to be there for you, with you, go through things with you? If the
Mhm.
server goes down, how will you survive mentally? What are your coping mechanisms to deal with people when you're communicating in the real world? And
Mhm.
I worry that students who already have issues communicating, like the younger generation,
Mhm.
it's only, like you said, going to make it worse,
Mhm.
because it's not encouraged that they take what they learn, especially because there's no guardrails and some of these chatbots are so negative. It's going to be more of a problem than an aid.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's what I think. The organization that I was talking about that was representing Sul and Juliana
Mhm.
is called Social Media Victims Law Center.
Mhm.
It's ran by Matthew Bergman. And I
Mhm.
just thought it was so interesting that social media has become so harmful that there's now a law center representing families whose kids have been harmed by social media. And then I start to wonder as well, like for instance, in that young man's death, Soul, I hope I'm
Mhm.
saying his name right. I think that's how they pronounced it. He was 14, and the chatbot that he was interacting with was he called her Danny, and it's from Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
And I'm like, if AI itself, like the industry itself, the field itself won't put up the guardrails,
Mhm.
does it then become the responsibility of those who it uses as like a tool, or like as characters? Should they be the ones to start saying like rails? You know what I mean? Should Game of Thrones write a letter and be like, just like they would cease and desist if somebody was using it for something else, to say like, listen, cease and desist, you can't use our shit anymore. You can't use none of our characters and none of our images. Should it
Mhm.
be Travis Kelsey who says you can't use my image for a 15-year-old boy to teach a 15-year-old to use cocaine? Should it be
Mhm.
a therapist to say like cease and desist? This is from the therapist board, whatever that association is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, where does the
Yeah.
responsibility fall?
Yeah, I think it's falling on the consumers now, and it's really ridiculous because it's getting a lot more advanced as time goes on. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't even there, and there's AI on when you're on Instagram Reels, and luckily I think YouTube is like demonetized AI videos, so they don't seem to be on board with it, and they have different ways to be able to show that, but it's even harder to be able to tell like what is AI and what isn't. Oh yeah, it's becoming almost impossible to kind of self-regulate or self-censor because it's getting so good at just it's getting so good at like imitating real life that you can't even without any kind of like AI tag or something, you cannot tell at all. And that's dangerous. It could be used for anything.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to mention because you were kind of talking about a lot of things at once, but one of the things when I was looking up the is it AI or not game, or just how to like creating my own is it AI or not or not game. I was reading an article that was talking about how this Chilean artist, who is just like a small artist, he grew at like a modest following. He wanted kind of the like super fame that Bad Bunny and others have. So he actually started using AI, taught himself, I guess, Suno or what have you, and he created an AI artist called Flow GPT, and he created a song called Nostalgia with IA at the end of it because it's an inteligencia artificial or an
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence in Spanish. So he has Bad Bunny, Justin Bieber, and Daddy Yankee on like one song, and it got a lot of rotation. It got him a lot of fame. So he actually uses AI to be able to kind of put or create music, and he was able to successfully create this song. It's a very popular song that has these artists together that are not singing together and have not ever worked together. I think Daddy Yankee's retired. I haven't heard from him
Mm-hmm.
since early 2000s or what have you. But it's just crazy that you can take that you can take like somebody else's voice and likeness and use it to propel yourself. It's just by like everyday people.
So would you consider that a pro or con?
Oh my goodness, I would say consider it a con, really. I mean, I think with the AI, I know I'm kind of diverting attention or diverting the topic, but with the AI artists, it's I think with the AI artists, it's just interesting how like the profiles that I read from like Nicholas Arter or Talisha uh, Jones, the fact that they were like, everyday people who were able to take this technology, learn how to use it, and then create artists that now, and Talisha has like, just a multi-million-dollar deal, like $3 million deal, what have you, from this R&B artist. It's just interesting, I should say. It's just interesting that everyday people are able to kind of take this technology and use it to improve their lives economically. And again, profit motive we were talking about throughout, just that profit motive that's there.
So here's one that I still don't know if I see it as a pro or a con.
Mm-hmm.
Future of warfare.
Mm-hmm.
There's this 32-year-old billionaire named Palmer Luckey, and he owns this company called Enduril. I hope I'm saying that right. And it's autonomous weapons or killer robots, as some call them. For example, the Roadrunner. And the Roadrunner is essentially like an intercepting, tracking mini missile. Like if you see those big, if you've ever seen the fireworks that look like missiles, it's essentially like that size.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it takes off, finds the target, and through electromagnetic warfare, it knocks out the enemy's drones, jams their systems and headphones. It can set off like a bomb and kill the whoever the enemy is, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes a great argument, which is like easy to make, right? We won't be losing life because you don't have to send soldiers in for every little thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But these are autonomous. And he says, though they're autonomous, they're not remote operated, but program and release, and then the AI is used to find the target and kill.
Mm-hmm.
They use a system called Gladys, which can gather info and execute the kill. And then he says that going rogue is not the main worry on his mind because they all have a kill switch. Some say the weapons are evil because it allows you to kill without like concern or conscience,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then also, what if somebody hacks the system? What about hacking and even viruses, right? That's a thing. What could happen if that goes left? What if the thing goes rogue after all? So he says that it keeps enemies away so the USA and its allies will be more fair. And there are 5 distinct weapon countries, which I didn't know this, primary weapon country called the primes.
Mm-hmm.
And he says now his company sources these 5 countries, I believe. And Anduril is a product-based company that might save the country billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For instance, he sold an autonomous submarine the size of a school bus called the Dive XL to Australia, to Australia, who invested $58 million to get one to protect them against China and Australia's waters.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fighter jet called the Fury, which is unmanned. I feel like this might make us more war prone than less. Like it won't be look at what we have, so don't come near us. It'll be, let's just send this out as a warning shot. He kept saying, because he's a Trump supporter, he kept saying he's doing what needs to be done. And I'm just like, what if this guy goes rogue? Then what happens? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does he then decide to take it upon himself to send these missiles elsewhere? Versus it's harder to deploy an army. You have to go through a chain of command. Like, this is a lot of power under one man's finger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, where are the guardrails for that? What protects us against him if he decides, fuck it, I want to take this country over myself? What then are the safety measures in place? Who has the kill switch? Who has the codes to the kill switch? What if it's hacked? What if somebody sells the designs? It's all these things that like I said, when I researched this, we were talking earlier offline, and I was like, I feel like I have more questions than answers. Like I have a better understanding or grasp of the topic of AI, but I feel like I have more questions than answers.
Yeah, I feel like I'm brought back to, I think, the DARE Institutes, whose technological imagination are you living in? So it's crazy that this person can create automated weapons, just kind of wild, because like, who do those get used on? Um,
Yeah. Another cause that we have to touch on is definitely the what they're now terming AI sweatshops. And so what's going on with that, people, is that they're hidden workers behind artificial intelligence, as one of the documentaries I watched on this was called. And what's happening is you have companies such as Google, Meta, QT, Microsoft, who outsource work for identifying and label places, things, people for AI to be able to better identify it and categorize it for their processes or whatever the AI is meant to do. These labelers are often located on the African continent. One place in particular, Kenya, which is being called the Silicon Savannah or the Technology Savannah, right? They're trying to grow their tech industry. The problem with this is these companies are making billions, but these workers are making pennies to the dollar. And that is not an exaggeration. Data labelers, or the ghost workers of AI, right, are located in Kenya mainly, and throughout Africa and other places like Colombia was one of the places that they went to. One person that we met in this documentary was Joan, and Joan talked about the fact that even though it's artificial intelligence, everything behind it is human intelligence, right? And if it was just simply labeling for fair pay, then there would be no complaints, right? Because fair wages make for better employees, if you will, right? But what's happening is they're not paying these workers, as I mentioned, fair wages at all. So for instance, there's one woman, I think her name is Chichi. She worked a job and the job paid $2, right? Which isn't too much in Kenyan dollars, but it's better than what she can make locally. She said what happened was when she went they had a certain app that they pay you on, but the app requires that you have $10 minimum in order to withdraw from the app. Okay, so we're going to go through Joan, Chi-Chi, and Michael's story just briefly, and then we can talk about it. So Joan says everything is human intelligence. She said she identified the arteries of the heart, but has no medical training, which is concerning. She said it changes you working on these AI platforms because one of the main issue is they have to do things like what Chi-Chi had to do, which was look at cannibalism, for instance. Michael had to look at a hardcore session for a 13-year-old. And so it creates psychological harm on these workers who are told that they're going to be doing simple labeling, and then they get like really like damaging work to do on the psyche, on the mental health, and then they're not even being paid or compensated for it. And then to add to it, these companies say that they offer psychological help, but what they really do is they offer like 2 to 3 sessions, and sometimes they don't even pay for it. So there's no aid for these people who are already in like certain situations. Like for instance, Michael, he joined them because he had 2 sons. One had experienced burns and the other one had cancer. So he's looking for compensation, right? In the US, these people who label are paid at least $50. There in Kenya, they're paid 0.01 cent. That's the rate. And then in addition to what they're doing with the regular labeling, some of the images that you see come from the labelers' families, and they're using that to train the AI. And then when they confronted the CEO of one of the companies, Appen, he said, "Oh, we'll talk in the future," but never followed up. And so what's happening is these people are being exploited for their work, and they're not getting the compensation or the assistance that they need to support them in this work. It's called the gig economy now too, and they're called the AI ghost workers.
Yeah, I mean, the human component to how companies are using AI is terrible. It's just like, this sentiment. I think I got it from Katerina Doria, the woman who identifies as an AI ethicist. And she was talking about how their kind of sentiment around building in AI is move fast and break things. Like just move fast and break things. It's more of like I think for almost like an arms race or like a race to the top relative to how AI is being used. And it's interesting because when I was looking up just information about artificial intelligence, there were also things that like other ways that AI is being implemented as well by smaller, lesser known companies that help with like wildlife conservation, AI for oncology, cancer screening, in addition to just climate change in the environment. So it's kind of crazy that like these huge companies, billion-dollar companies that have more than enough money,
Yeah,
more than enough influence, like how they're using it, and it's just in a very careless way when it doesn't
yeah.
have to be this way. This does not
It
have to be the
doesn't.
reality.
It's very callous as well. It's very
Yeah.
like, yeah. Cause like for instance, like Appen, who like is one of the groups that Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta goes through
Mhm.
to get AI labelers, when companies complain about Appen and when workers and governments complain about these companies, what they do is they threaten to shut down shop and move elsewhere.
Mhm.
So it's just like shut up and take it, you know?
Mhm.
You can't, or because we're not going to have better work conditions. And then what's really unfortunate is a lot of these companies will say like, "Oh, we're trying to work at it. We're trying to be better at it. We have stuff in our bylaws that talk about trafficking, anti-trafficking and anti-slavery." Like Appen when they spoke to the CEO, Ryan Cole, right? But when it's questioned, like by Chris Evans of the Anti-Slavery Commission, one of the things that they bring up is like, you can talk about it all you want. The sentiment sounds good, but at the end of
Mhm.
the day, we're the laws, and we know from SIT, not only do you need the policy and to speak about it, but you need the implementation and the monitoring and the evaluation as well of said policies to make sure that they're working in the way that they need to be working. And none of that is in place. So these companies are just doing whatever they want to these workers without any consequence and without any conscience. And so the data workers are kind of uniting to help each other to help create ethical AI practices and mental health resources. And they want to make sure that things are done the right way, So they're fighting back, but there's only so much they can do in such short time.
I do want to mention again the same people that I've kind of mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
Shay O, I think it's Omonijo. I think her last name is
Mm-hmm.
Omonijo. So I think she states in some of her, because I follow her on Threads. She states, it's AI isn't necessarily like this thing by itself that's creating destruction. There are people that are, programming things behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people that are inputting things behind it. So I keep going. I know I keep repeating myself, but I'm thinking of like, people are actively putting these things into artificial intelligence because it's a tool that could be used for like anything from playing chess to creating a relationship with somebody. You can implement and create things
Mm-hmm.
to not be destructive. So it's this
Right.
interesting, and I know that you studied like sustainable development. I think there was an aspect of it that was like the values behind what you build will always like come out as well. My mind keeps going to that because it just seems like these companies just kind of build for profit and don't really care about anything else until,
Mm-hmm.
it's on its last leg or until they get infiltrated. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You're right. There can definitely be some pros and upsides to it. But it's like any system, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes the biases and the prejudice and all those things are still being infused and developed in the system because people are the ones who are dictating what the system does.
Yes, yes. Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
There's this
Mm-hmm.
organization called the World Bee Project, and they focus on the relationship between pollination, food insecurity, biodiversity, and human well-being. So they use artificial intelligence to save bees. So essentially, the global bee population is in decline, which this our entire system is very, very sensitive. So if something comes out of whack or what have you, that creates an entire imbalance in our system, in our ecosystem, our biodiversity, and our food supply. So the World Bee Project has partnered with Oracle to learn about how to help bees survive and thrive by gathering data through internet, through really just through understanding bee behavior. So they use like microphones, cameras on
Mm-hmm.
hives, and they use the data to upload it into a cloud and analyze using artificial intelligence to identify patterns or trends that could really direct early intervention to help bees survive. So, I mean, it seems kind of crazy to say that after the human component was like massive, but and I don't mean to laugh at it because it's not funny, but it just kind of just the
The
order of things.
contrast, the stark contrast
Yeah.
of what it can do.
Yeah, I was also reading about how AI is impacting in oncology, and that cancer screening and AI imaging capabilities can be really promising for identifying cancer, breast
Mm-hmm.
cancer, prostate cancer, what have you, and how it's being used to there was a study on how it could be used to predict the development of diseases across healthcare networks. They had this paper that I was reading was highlighting a group from Mount Sinai, which used deep learning based AI algorithms to predict the development of diseases with 94% accuracy, including liver, rectum, and prostate cancer as well. So I found that really interesting as well. And then like wildlife conservation efforts and efforts relative to climate change as well. Yeah, so it was talking about the University of Hawaii's Endangered Seabird Recovery Project, how it uses AI to analyze 600 hours of audio to detect the number of collisions between birds and power lines in an effort to help halt the decline of endangered species using AI. So really just being able to track information, get better information on how to solve a problem. Again, I think it's interesting that there's like examples of how it could be used just for like profits. I don't give a damn about anything else. Profits, examples of how it can, I mean, completely make someone into, as what you said, make someone into a recluse by just constantly feeding them validation, making it easier to be able to connect as opposed to actually having that person or that person well, I guess making it simpler for people to become just completely isolated, and then versus how it could be used to help track data to help to solve a problem, and then how it can be used to completely destroy ecosystems or to completely destroy people's lives. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, it's like such a spectrum of usage.
Hmm.
But once again, the guardrails and the things that needs to be put in place will probably make such a difference and have such an impact on
Yeah.
how it can be used, or more importantly, how it cannot be used.
Mhm. So what do we do with all of this information? This is from the National Conference of State Legislatures, so each state's legislative body, and it's a list of states that have some kind of AI statutory, excuse me, some kind of AI regulation in place or putting
Mhm.
AI regulation in place. I just wanted to mention a few states and what they were doing. Again. Okay, so I know that there are a few states that have tried to kind of have definitions around AI. I know Arkansas, California, as well as a few other states. I can't go through the entire list.
Of course.
Colorado and what have you. So the only reason that I bring up the state legislatures, I thought I had this up, but the only reason I bring this up is because states are still trying to, there are certain states anyway, that are still trying to protect or um, to kind of do the job that the federal government should really be doing relative to
Mhm,
regulating.
mhm. Right, right, right.
Mm, Okay, so
It's uh-huh.
just to give you like a short list. So Arkansas has some AI policy enacted. So if content is generated as a part of the of employment duties, this law specifies that generated content should not infringe on existing copyright or intellectual property rights. So that's in Arkansas. In New Jersey, they adopted a resolution urging generative AI companies to make voluntary commitments regarding employee whistleblower protections. New York enacted a new law that requires state agencies to publish detailed information about their automated decision-making tools on their public websites through an inventory created and maintained by the Office of Information Technology. It also amends the civil service law to strengthen worker protections. This requires when AI is used, AI systems are used by the state government that it can't affect the existing rights of employees. Or
Mm.
so that's pretty exciting. And then the other ones, North Dakota, Oregon, and Montana. Yeah, and then North Dakota, they prohibit individuals from using AI-powered robots to stalk or harass other individuals, which kind of reminded me of what the story that you were talking about of the young girl who passed away,
Mhm.
and then she's still getting notifications to come back to the character AI app, which is crazy.
Yeah, nuts.
Um, just a short list: Oregon, North Dakota, New York, New Jersey, Montana, and Arkansas being one of the kind of the main ones that have, as of July 10th, 2025, about artificial intelligence legislation.
Okay. Okay, so states are making the effort.
Yes, at least they're putting the effort, and I'm surprised to hear that Arkansas is on this list because I just did not expect it. So I know that's been a lot, you guys, but again, we're just kind of grasping with a lot of this stuff, and we want to know and hear from you now that you've kind of heard all that we have to say about the human component of AI, how it affects the environment, progress with AI as well, and climate change and wildlife conservation. We want to hear from you. This is our tea time, so contact us through our socials, whether our YouTube, Instagram, or you can call us. Um, you can call us.
At 443-478-3667.
Perfect. Sorry,
I got
I didn't
you.
have it up on me. Thank you. But we want to hear from you. How has AI impacted you? We'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Has it impacted you in a positive way? Maybe you created something using AI that's helped you significantly, or maybe it hasn't. Maybe you suffered a job loss because of advancements in AI from your employer. We want to hear what you have to say. Give us your thoughts and connect with us on our socials.
Yeah, and even if it's not how you are affected by it or how you implement it in your life, but how do you reject it even if you don't use AI? Is there a way to do that? Do you believe it should be in the classrooms? Do you think we should be using it in the workplace? How do you implement or reject AI in your daily life? And I love the questions that Celeste asks as well.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, we want to hear from you.
So now we're going to move into, well, we have nothing for that bottom shelf liquor behavior this week. Yay. But next
Yay.
we're going to have top shelf liquor behavior and shout outs. So shout out to Desiree8321. Her comment from her last episode was, which was sex, tourism, power and privilege in the bedroom, was there are a lot of unscrupulous people walking around. No shame, no introspection. They were indoctrinated into a culture of instant gratification and excess. Men from the West have always felt that it was their divine right to assert dominance over the world. I was born into a position of economic political power, and so I can take advantage of this luck. Black men doing this is just another example of people not wanting change, but a seat at the oppressor's table. Thank you, Desiree. I think that was eloquently stated.
Mhm.
And you do see that sometimes people who just want to replace the oppressor as opposed to completely tear down the system. Any thoughts, Celeste?
Yeah, that's yeah, it's strange to have like a Western ideology and to kind of bring that into a different context and assert that on other people. So very well said, Desiree. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and that will wrap up today's show. It was great. Thank you guys for sitting through this with us, patrons. We appreciate you. Hope your libations was good. Hope the wine bottle isn't too empty. But if it is, it's all good. It's a holiday.
Interact with us, please. Give us your comments on anything that you've heard from us today relative to our shots, our shakers and stirs segment, or tea time. Let us know what you think. Call us at, do you mind saying the number again?
You can call us at 4434783667.
Awesome. And talk to us on any of our socials, YouTube, Instagram. I'll hope to talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.